Hey guys, so yesterday I live coded and the whole session took like 36 minutes, I think. And then I rewatched it and I thought, once I rewatched it, I noticed that I actually only coded for about 10 minutes. And then I spent like 25 minutes on domain. I've never gotten any training in three-dimensional stuff in general, so I don't really know this domain. And I think that was a really important video for me to watch and maybe for other people to watch too, because like that is such a big part and such an unspoken part of the job. Like when you become a programmer, you sort of have this general skill set, kind of like reading or writing or arithmetic or algebra or something, and then there's what you apply it to. And maybe back like when I first started coding, you could just be like a generic coder and you just go in a place and you're like, I don't care what the domain is. But that just is not the case anymore. Today, uh, you're sort of expected, especially after like a year, to understand the domain. And the things that we're coding are way more like domain specific now than they used to be. It used to be that like maybe an engineer would tell the coder, "Hey, this is the thing I want to understand. I want to be able to see this." And then you'd write the code, and then they'd sort of measure and be like, "Okay, yeah, that's right." And then you may not even understand what you're doing. Like they're like, "Okay, what does your code say that is this hot or cold? Is this on or off? Blah blah blah." And then the engineer checks it, and you guys are synced up. But that engineer role isn't there anymore. Um, so you know, understanding the domain is very, very important and it's incredibly difficult. Especially, different domains are more difficult than each other. I know that when I worked at like in finance, it's like a whole different language in there. What the what you might like they have words that don't make any sense, um, unless you've been to school for finance. And then when you're trying to code, it could be just about impossible to understand what in the world um, you've yeah, I want this crafty by Melissa.com. It could be, like you could be to where it's almost impossible for you to do your job because you don't understand what you're coding. And like the people you're interacting with, they're giving you very general, like back in the 80s and 90s, you'd get like a big book this thick of everything that you were supposed to code, and you'd go page by page and all that. And the UIs didn't give you as many options of things you could do. So, but now they just give you a screenshot and they're like, okay, build this thing, and it's supposed to do a redemption. And you're like, what the heck's a redemption? I don't know. Well, so yesterday that happened with the bevel. I honestly didn't know what a bevel was. And it was like, whoa, a bevel is like a little, like an angle on like if you have a square, it's an angle. And then I'm like, well, why don't we have bevels for geometries? Other geometries like cubes and stuff. And I was looking that up on ChatGPT, and they don't, but they have ways. I think it's called an extruded thing. But anyways, like that was as big of a part of like I already knew how to code when I started this project. What I didn't understand was 3D and animations and things like that. And so I wanted to learn that kind of stuff. And I don't know of any good way to learn that kind of stuff, except for the hard way. You're just going through this stuff and trying to figure it out. So, anyways, that's what happened with Bevel yesterday, and I think that was a useful thing. I definitely didn't realize that for me, when I'm trying to get this domain specific understanding, it takes me probably twice as long to get that as it does to code it. And maybe that's just because I've been coding for so long. Maybe other people would take twice as long to code, but for me, it takes longer to understand the domain than it does to code. So anyway, so today I want to continue on the same path, and I want to do bevel offset since that was the one that we were able to use to see the bevel. And the bevel offset is the difference that where the smooth part will come across. So I'm going to add that into the interface for the mesh interface, and I'll just add that right before the bevel segments. So bevel offset, and that is going to be a number. And just like yesterday, it should break and find us some things to fix. And hold the Alt button, the Control button down, and click on it, and that will take you to it. And the problem is that our bevel offset is empty. So bevel offset, and for some reason it had us set that to 0. That doesn't, I don't know. I guess that makes sense. I guess by default you probably don't want a bevel. I don't know why we have bevel segments. Why those? I don't know. I don't. Who knows? So that's that, and that works, and that was in the bevel in the manager. So we probably want those next to the bevel offset. So we know that if you watched yesterday, you know that in the template we have a place that that's only things that are only displayed for text geometries. So we need our bevel offset in there. And when we do this, Control V, and then the distance, I guess it's the distance. This is our hint for bevel offsets, and basically I'm going to say the distance. How do you spell distance between the start and end of the bevel? And you really want to double check your spelling. So distance. Yeah, that's how you spell it. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay, so bevel offset. I believe that's what we called it, bevel offset. I'll keep that in my head. Offset. And go over here. And then we'll just Alt and back button. And yep, that's right, bevel offset. So the Alt and the left, or the back arrow, or left arrow, will take you back to where you were. So let's just double check that that works. Show edit form. Boom. Turn this thing into some text. And all we want to see is that the bevel offset is there. So it's messed up. We probably actually even have, we have an error because there's no control. So then what I do is I go into the manager component and I just look for all the bevel segments. And then we should be able to sort of blindly bevel is probably good, but we should be able to blindly sort of copy and paste. It's good to kind of at least be a bit aware of what you're doing. So we know that bevel segments, that this is the subscriptions. So this is what happens after every change. So anytime the user makes a change to the form, this subscription will fire. All right, we'll go to the next one. This is our setting up of the form. So when we set it up, that's actually what the bug was, or the console log was. Okay, so bevel offsets. Offset. I think it's bevel offset is equal to bevel offset. And let's go again. This is when we update the form. So since there's no way to update this outside of this form, this isn't as critical. But we might want to make this animatable, and it will actually be necessary when import export finally comes. So bevel offset. And then make sure bevel offset, we stayed correct, like we didn't make them plural. There's no place where I said bevel offsets. Okay, so now we should be able to update the bevel offset and not have a console log error. So bevel offset, oh, we need to make it a text, and our bevel offset is 0, and we don't have any errors, so that's good. Okay, so now we need to go into the ThreeJS, our 3JS service, and in here we will we'll change that to be mesh item bevel offset times 1. Times 1, and then there's another place that we need to do it. It would probably be a good idea to kind of go through and just see if there's a way to combine these two into a single call. Okay, so bevel segments is hard coded over here, so that's not a good thing. And we do have the mesh item, so let me see, Control V and Control V, and bevel. This is bevel offset up here. And oh wait, oh, curve segments. That is confusing me. And I'm going to look at this one more time. So this is our new geometry. It's a text geometry, and we're setting it to what is on the mesh item. That makes sense. This is our, when we're creating a new one and we're setting it to that. Okay, that totally makes sense. So it makes sense to have two separate ones for that. This is the one that we probably, what is this one? This is for update mesh. Okay, so whenever we update it and they change the actual shape from like a box geometry, we do this one. Whenever they make any other change, then okay, so then we probably need to add up in this or an additional, 2 additional ones. We didn't do that last time. I'm just kind of blindly bevel offset is not equal to mesh item offset. And I do not remember why. I do remember making them separate. The one where there's one case where we're making changes because they changed from like a sphere to a text. And then there's another case where they've made a change within this, and I don't know why those aren't combined. I'm pretty sure there was a good reason. It's kind of one of those things where, like, we've done hundreds of things here, and it's hard to remember exactly why we did everything, but I think there's a good reason for it. It's probably worth re-investigating at some point in the future. So I think everything should work now. We should be able to change the offset and all of that. So what we do to test it, and that is probably the most important thing, is to test it when you get done. It is always very tempting to just like write the code and just assume that it works and push it real good, but it's probably a mistake. If like literally 1 in 10 times it ends up being a problem, you will lose way more time than you gained. So I'm going to make the bevel offset, I don't know, 2? No, see. I don't know. It's got to be some factor of probably one of those. So 0.1. So that made it real fat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a normal, and then I'm going to move our camera so that we can see that little corner there. And so I'm going to move it closer on the Z to like 1. Okay, and then to move us over to the left. So -1. All right, and then let's go ahead and move 0.1. Okay, so that works. Let's try z of 0.1. Okay, that's a little bit too close. 0.3 and 0.5. Okay, so I thought 0.4. Let's try that. So I think these are our bevels. I think we have 5 of them. We must have 5 of them. Oh, yeah, I need to go back to the mesh. Yeah, we have 5 of them. So if we make it to 2, yeah, there's our offset right there. And so our bevel offset is 0.1. So if we make it 0.2, see, I think what's happened is the overall size has gotten bigger. So let me move the camera out a little bit farther. Z position of 0.5, and then we're going to move over to like 0.2, 0.3. All right, so now I'm going to get a little closer, 0.3. All right, so I think what we're seeing is the beginning of it being there and that. So that must be 0.1 units or 0.2 units, whatever we set up. So let's change this to 1 so we can just see a nice flat. Okay, I think that's easier to see. So I'm going to make the bevel offset 0.1 again. And so that affects everything, and I don't really know exactly why. 0.2. It made like the whole thing bigger because the bevel is bigger. And again, I don't really quite understand why. 0.3. So let's see, 0.1. So it goes from here to here. 0.2. Now it goes from here to here, which I guess is bigger. I'm going to move we're going to go back in the camera and move it out to like where we're in front of it again. 5. So the bevels I think are so big. So let's try this. Let's go back to the mesh and make the bevel offset 0.1 again. And then I wonder how small you can go. Like, can we go to 0.01? 0.02? Yeah. 0.03. So if it's 0.1 and if it's 0. So what you see is that the crafty, by like the letters have some spacing between them at this point, but I think they, like when I make it 0.1, they sort of merge together. I guess, yeah, I don't quite understand what's going on here, but I think it's important to, okay, so to try to understand this stuff. See, 1. So we are at, this is 0.01. You can clearly see it there. And so I wonder if you put 0.001. So you can definitely still see it. It's kind of weird because I don't feel like I see a big difference, like in the actual size of that. So what it seems like where you really seem to see something happen is like here in this C right there, right? So like, oh, okay, so you can kind of see what's going on in the middle there. So when it's 0.1, so let's go to 0.5, 0.6. Yeah, I'm so confused at what is happening here. 0.1. Maybe it's not okay. So what I was thinking was like, okay, so if we're seeing this, if the C is here, right? This is the C we're looking at sideways. that the bevel was just going out like that, but it looks like it's not just going out like that. It's going out and in. So like this C is going 0.1 this way and 0.01 that way. So when I say 0.05, like the whole thing is, yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better understanding of this. So it seems to have a minimum 1 and then 0.2. See, it's twice as much now. Whatever it is, it's twice as much. And then 0.2. So I guess let's look at what's going on in the middle there. 0.1. 0.2. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It definitely seems like this is getting bigger as the bevel gets bigger. Um, like it gets to the point where you can't even see. Like let's go to the camera and put this back out to 5. Like you can't even see the letters because the bevel, I guess, I don't know. The bevel size is 1, and then if I make the bevel size 0.1, now you can at least see letters. And if I make the bevel size 0, they're very clearly, you can definitely, I'm so crafty. Let's see, we'll look up Melissa. Oh, I did get that one right. Yeah, you can at least see the things. It's funny. I want to go back to just the. It seems like X would be your best letter to kind of see what's going on. Let's try that. Okay, so we're gonna add a mesh. It's not. Yeah, it's happy. It's just reloaded. Okay, we're gonna add a mesh. We're gonna turn it into a text mesh. And we are going to turn it into a normal, and then we're going to make its bevel offset 0.1. And so, okay, I actually think maybe I would have been a better one. Okay, I'm going to go with I. That's a bummer. So Alt back will get me where I was. Basically what I want is these new text geometry. It's kind of wild that other new text geometry doesn't. Oh, it has the word text. I. So now we're going to add this mesh, and we're going to convert it over into a text mesh. And I'm going to turn it to a normal font or material. And then I'm going to, let's change the size of it. Let's change the size to 2. Okay, and then change the size to 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and change the camera so that we are we're kind of closer to it. Let's see, let's go to 3. Are we too close at 3? No. And then let's go to 3 on the X position. Okay, so now we're looking at the angle, and there is no bevel, and that makes sense because the bevel offset is 0, so you can't really see it. So if I make the bevel offset 1, which is a lot, then this whole thing got a lot fatter. so we have 5 segments and we have a bevel offset of 1. If we make it 0.1, it's very close to the original size. So I guess that's one reason why it looked weird, is because it makes the whole thing fatter. So at 1, so at 2, and let's go back to our original camera location of Z position of 5, and Z position of 36. That was not 5. 5. Okay, so now let's go back and make our bevel position, bevel offset 2. Back to 3. Okay, I'm going to change the camera to be straight on again. 0. Okay, so now we're looking at the very front of it. So when the bevel offset is, let's say, 2, it's not as fat as it was. 1. And then we have 5 segments. So let's go over here and do let's go to 3 and, oh yeah, -3. Okay, that was one thing. Yeah, okay, so -3. Okay, let's go to -2 and 2 and -1 and 1. No, that's too close. Okay, -2 and 2. All right, so now we're looking at this corner. So now we have our mesh. We have a bevel offset of 1 and 5 segments. I'm going to turn it to 1 segment. Okay, so yeah, you can clearly see that happening. So it doesn't actually seem to be affecting the actual distance between there. So I was completely wrong on that. It seems to be affecting the actual thickness of the whole, of the entire thing. 0.1. See, it just says 0.2, 0.3. See, this seems to me like it's saying the same thing. It just seems like the whole item itself is, like, if we double it, 0.6, like it got twice as wide, or maybe, let's see, 0.3, 0.6. Yeah, it seems like it's getting wider every time I do that. 0.9. Now it's even wider. And then, like, if we look at it from straight on, it doesn't even look like an eye anymore, I don't think. 5 and 0. So we're looking at it straight on, and we probably need to go out a little farther. 9. See, the little space between the top of the eye and the bottom of the eye goes away. And then if we go to the bevel, make it like 0.5, still nothing. 0.1. We can start seeing that. So, like, I guess that little, like the little square above it, like, you can clearly, at 0, there's a bunch of space, and then at 0.1, it gets closer. So it's making the entire mesh bigger, right? That eye up there is definitely bigger than it was. Now it kind of makes me, instead of an eye, I would kind of like to just try a period. And a period. And then we're going to add this mesh, edit form, and text, and make this a normal. And then let's just change the bevel offset to something pretty massive, 1. See, it's literally exactly like it was before. The bevels are the same. Let's see if I make this segment. See, we can't really see it because we're not at an angle. but it just like made everything bigger. So like, yeah, so let's take our camera and just move it so we're at a 45-degree angle from it. So just to kind of maintain, we can the same thing. So we're going to move off to the left. So there's our mesh, and our bevel offset is 1 right now. So if we make our bevel offset 2, see, it just made it wider. I don't think it even made it quicker. It got thicker. It just made it wider. Wider 1.1. So, and then 0. So that's weird. It's weird that our, oh, it's because of our height. Okay, so I'm going to make this a 0.1. Okay, so that looks like a normal little period, right? So now if we make our bevel offset 1. Okay, so just the width, just this front area changed. The actual thickness did not change. So the height, what they call height, did not change. But this side, the width and height, what I would call width and height, did change. Now I would have what they call height, I would call depth. But so now let's make the bevel offset 2. Yeah, it seems like that's the thing that's changing, and then 0.1. So what's really strange is like you can't see any bevels if you don't have a bevel offset, but bevel offset seems to, oh, so I guess it just makes it like farther out, and then it bevels. Oh, okay, so like maybe, no, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really understand it. So hopefully, as we move through these different things, the bevel size and bevel thickness, and be able to enable and disable bevels. I feel like curved segments should also be mesh item dot curved segments. So I probably should just create a function that returns a geometry for text geometry, so I don't have this duplicated over and over again, and it just uses, and I just pass it the mesh item, and it just returns the right thing for that, and so then I only have like 3. Maybe I'll do that on the next episode. But anyway, so what is this one? 33 minutes again. I bet you that the first 10 minutes, probably just the first few minutes were coding. So if all you cared about was the coding part, then then you easily could just turn off at that point. And then if you cared about the domain, the 3D domain, then probably the last 20 minutes was probably interesting for you. Or you might have been frustrated. You might have been like, dude, it's so simple. A bevel is this, a bevel is that, blah, blah, blah. Or, you could also be like, yeah, I still don't understand what a bevel is. I need to go do some more research and understand what ThreeJS text beveling is. And maybe I just found a gap in your knowledge. But anyways, I do think that this is actually more useful than not. I didn't realize that I was only doing a couple minutes of code and then doing a ton of domain analysis. So anyways, happy coding everybody, and domain analyzing. Stay cool. Bye.